Well, thank you for joining me. Creator Plus is a new set of tools that we purchased that makes it easier for you to create specialized content on pages inside of Brightspace. And some of the examples, now some of these things you might already say, oh, it does that, but it's a much easier process. And then there's some new neat tools that you probably have not seen before. A couple of things that are already there that you basically have to use the codes to be able to use are for accordions and tabs. And now it makes it easier if you do want to use those tools. You don't have to worry about codes. It just gives you the boxes to fill in the information to create them. So it's kind of neat. And if you have to go back in and edit and say, oh, I only picked four accordions, but now I need a fifth one. How do I add it in? And the new tool is simply go in and edit, say you want another accordion, and you can just start putting your information in. So it saves a lot. Okay. I'm trying to figure out, I don't want to show captions for me. Okay. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay. So I'm just going to go into one of these modules. And basically, it's when you create pages that you have all these options. So it's under upload and create a file or web page. Okay, so obviously, just like you would create any page, you give it a title, but this is where it's all new. Underneath this plus sign here, if you click on the plus sign, there's options that were not there before when we first started. So they have insert element, insert practice, and insert layouts. Now I'm going to start by looking at the insert elements. Okay, and you can see there's a whole bunch of elements in here to use. So they have the accordions and tabs, which I said there are templates that you can just go in and pick like how many accordions, how many tabs you want, but it's all code related and it's a pain in the neck if you have to add a couple and take some away. So this is much easier. The click to reveal is kind of like where you would click on something and have the text pop out. So if they clicked on like a term and it had underline it, they could click on it and it would pop out what text, like a description or a definition. The call outs, basically what it would be, and I'm going to show you these so you can see what they look like. The call outs would be something where maybe you would want to create a box and have like an important, like a exclamation point or a triangle to say it's something important. And it creates the box for you. It lets you pick a symbol and it lets you type the text in, and it automatically creates the box, the color, and the image on the left-hand side, which is great. Just a great way of accenting something. The timeline is exactly that. If you are going to talk to your students about a timeline, so let's say, Myra, you're going to talk about the timeline of the blender and how it progressed over the years. You could create a timeline for something like that. The stylized quote is if you wanted to have something look like a quote symbol and you have text inside of it. So if there's some information on the page you kind of want to accent, you could use the stylized quote. Flip cards. The flip cards are exactly what they say they are. Basically, what you could use it for is where it would have like a topic, and then they could flip the card over and you could give the definition on the back side of the card. So it's more of an interaction type thing, and I'll show you one of those. The carousel, again, I'm going to go back to Myra again, that the carousel might be something that you could use to go through a set of pictures. And, you can give them text, you can give them pictures, whatever you want. It's almost like a slideshow kind of thing, but within the page inside of Brightspace. And a hotspot is where you can upload an image into Brightspace and you can create hotspots on the image. So the student has to click on it and then a text box will pop up next to it and say, oh, this is what you just clicked on. So if you had the anatomy of a monkey or an atom or something like that, you could have it set up so that you bring that picture in and create hotspots for the students to click on to learn more about it. So those are all the element ones. Okay, and I'm going to show you what they look like. Also in here, there's insert practice. And what this is, insert practice allows you to add questions to a page inside of Brightspace. So let's say, for an example, you have a page that has your course syllabus on it. And maybe halfway through the page, you want to stop and ask them a question. So you're basically checking their knowledge of what they've read so far. And it can be true, false. It can be multiple choice. It can be a fill in the blanks kind of neat. It's a little more complicated to create, but they're really neat to use. There's matching. There's a whole bunch of different ones that you can use. And you can set these up at different increments through the page. Now, just remember, this is for self-assessment so that they can check their knowledge. It doesn't go back to the grade book, and it doesn't, let them get a grade for reading the syllabus or whatever. If you still wanted to do like a syllabus quiz, you could still do that, but it's just something to stop them, to ask them questions on the page. Okay. The third option in here is the layouts option. And the layouts option, basically what it is for is how many times did you put a picture in and then you put text next to it. You can never get the text to wrap around it right. And, you played around with it and it was a pain in the neck. Well, now, because a lot of people would use a table for something like that, and they would put the picture on the first cell and then put their text next to it. The problem is tables inside of any document, to make them ADA compliant, have to have a heading across them. Now, because this is a layout, it's a little bit different, and it doesn't have to have titles across the top of each one of your columns. Plus, you can see here, one of the layouts is one big box on the top and then two smaller boxes below it, and you can kind of mix and match what different elements you want to lay out your page. So it just gives you basically text boxes to put in images, text, resources, whatever you want to give your student. It could be bulleted lists, it can be whatever you want to break it down. So those are the three main things that we're going to look at, okay? And like at any time, you can go in and I'll pick a couple of them, one from each area. So I go back here and I say, I'm going to insert an element. And I like the flip cards. So let's say I can go in and I want to do a flip card. And you can give, select each item to learn more. So basically it's just telling them that they're going to flip them over to be able to see it. And you can see here, there's a front and a back option. So you can have a title on each one, and then you can have content on each one. So let's say I want to put in, let me do something like Donna Simiel. Okay. And I'm just going to have that name on the front of the card. So when I flip it over, I'm going to have an image of myself. So I'm going to go to the back, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to add an image. Okay, and I know I've got, once they pop up, I'm going to grab that one. And I'm going to say, so you need to put in alt text or say it's decorative, and then I'm going to save it. Okay, so on the front of the card, it's just going to say Donna Samiel. On the back of the card, it's going to say, or show a picture of me. And obviously I can go in and add whatever I want text at the top. I'm just going to say online learning. Okay, and then I can go in and I can add another one. Okay, so I know I've got a picture of Caitlin Weatherwax. Okay, so that's going to go on the front of the card. And you can put an image on the front as well. And I'll show you some examples of what I've done. So I'm going to add an image. So basically, it's kind of just giving you boxes to fill in for each piece that you want to put in here. I thought Caitlin was at the very top. Why is it not showing it? Okay. Well, let's do this.
Is there a certain size?
What was that?
Is there certain sizes for the images?
Like I haven't had a problem where it had a specific person.
Okay.
So I'll change the name on the front of the card. Okay. I'm gonna go back to the front and put Mark Bonacci. Now, the neat thing about this is I can just keep adding them. So if I want to do a whole bunch of flip cards, I can just keep adding them to the list. If I add one and I say, oh, you know, I didn't mean to add one, you just have to hit the trash can to get rid of it. And that's what it, like I said, it's so easy to add things or take them away at any time. And you can edit this and the same thing's going to pop up. So that's what I love about it. It's so easy to edit it. So I'm going to go ahead and trash it because it won't let me keep an empty one in there. Now, I can preview it before I throw it on the page. Okay, so you can see I just did names and now when they flip them over, so that answers your question, Kim. There's a problem with the size of the file. Okay, so that's not working. So I'd have to get, so Mark's works perfect. So Mark's isn't a problem. Okay, so I might have to play around with the size of the pictures. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say, okay, that's fine. I'm going to hit insert. So now it's on the page. So I'm going to say intro to Creator Plus. Okay, now the other neat thing about it is you don't have to go to a template to pull in code to be able to add more to this. So let's say I want to go in and I want to add an accordion to this. So I'm going to go into my plus sign again, and I'm going to add another element. Okay, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to pick an accordion. Okay, now the neat thing is you can do them as numbered, you can do them as unnumbered. So you wouldn't have to type out number 1 is this, number 2 is this. I thought that was kind of neat too, and that's new. That's not part of our original accordions. So I can go in and say Mark Bonacci, and I can put in, and I could go in and put in whatever information I wanted to have inside the accordion. And I'll do me. Helps if I spell it right. Okay. Okay. And again, at any time, I can add another accordion to it. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and preview it. And then they just have to expand the accordion to be able to see what's in it. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that. Okay. So now I've got my flip cards at the top. I've got my accordions here. Okay. And let's go in and let's do a practice element, which would be a question. Okay. And the drop down is probably, like I said, is probably the more complicated one, and I'll show you what it looks like. I'm going to make this as easy as possible for the example. So I'm going to do multiple choice. Okay, so they have a lot of extra things in here, and I will tell you the short description shows to you, it doesn't show to the students. Okay, so anytime you see that, remember that's only for you. So I'm going to say who works online learning. Okay, and then I'm put in here, and I mean, you can pick and choose. You don't have to put something in every single one. Select the person online learning. Okay, so I'm going to put in here Mark. Yeah. I mean, you can put in pictures too. You could add the picture of the person so that maybe they could recognize them by face, but not by name. Okay, and I don't need the other two because I'm only showing them a list of the 2 people. And I'm going to say this is the correct answer. It does have the option to randomize it, not a big deal. And it shows you what the question is going to look like to the students. So if I go in here and say, oh, Mark's the right one, they can check the answer, and it says, no, it's not Mark. They can try it again. And that's what it would look. Now it says there's a score, but they don't actually get anything for completing it, right, or whatever. So that's my question. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to insert that. Okay. For some reason, it comes up with a screen and then you have to exit out of the screen, but it tells you it was created. So that's what it looks like to you once the question's created. Now, just remember, anytime you come in to edit the page, you can click on that element and it'll always give you this option in here to edit it. And that would let you go back in. I could add a third person to this, to the flip cards. So anytime, if I decide I don't want it anymore, I can hit delete. Or if I want to reorder them, it makes it real easy for me to move things around on the page. So I can tell it to move underneath if I wanted to. And every single element's going to have that. So I can click on any one of them and edit them. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And well, let me do one more thing in that last category, just so that you can see it for the layout. Okay. And you can see the options. The nice thing about it is, let's say, well, I want 2 and 2. So I could go in and say, I want 2 panels. And basically it's tables is what it is. And then I want 2 more below it. So I can add another layout underneath it and say 2 more. Okay. Now it does separate them. So I think it will limit. Oh, okay. So I can get rid of the spaces and create them together if I wanted to. So I'm going to go in, I'm just going to grab a document here. And let's say I'm going to put this in the first box, and I'm just grabbing junk. So you can easily copy and paste content from wherever you want it. And you can see you can change it. So maybe I want this one to be bigger on the left and smaller on the right. You can go in and do that, and it automatically does it for you. So maybe over here, I'm going to add a picture. So I'm going to go in and insert a picture here. Oh, there's Caitlin's picture. All right. So I'm going to go, let's say I want to add that. It's decorative, so I can just pick that. And that put the picture in there. Okay. So I have so far 4 elements. I have the flip cards. I have the, what was this? The accordions, the questions, practice questions, and then we use the layouts in here. So I'm going to save it and close it. So this is what it looks like to students. Now, I have asked them if there's a way that we can set it up so that maybe that if I just wanted text on the front, maybe it could be a term and a definition or something like that. It doesn't give you the option to change the font. That's the, so it looks kind of plain, but you can see where they can flip it over. Now I've done stuff where I put a little picture on the front and the back, and along with text. So, I mean, you can spruce it up in different ways.
Is
Here's
changing
the
the color of
accordion.
it an option, Donna?
Can you what?
Change the color of it?
No.
It's a lot of white.
It is a lot of white. Yeah, yeah. I'll show you what I did on mine in one of my classes. So you can see just adding a picture sometimes can help. But with the accordions, obviously you can have as much information in these accordions and expand it. And remember I said I did the numbering on it. So it numbered them for me, and it'll automatically, if I go in and add a third one, it would make it number 3 and so on. So, and I can expand all, or I can collapse all using the button. So that's also new from the original accordions. Okay. And then here's that question. So that's the question that I put in there. And again, if they go in and they mark, check their answer, it's wrong, they can try again. So hopefully it will reinforce it if they go through. But like I said, it's showing a score, but it's not going to actually record that. You can't go in and see if they did it, how many times did they have to do it to get it right, that kind of thing. This is just set for self-assessment. Okay, and then there's the last layout options with the 4. Okay, so that's how easy it is to go in and create them. And all you would have to do if you wanted to change any of them, you can edit the HTML. Okay, and that was just a quick, I can go in here and say, okay, I want to edit this. And I decide I want a third flip card in here. And I know I've got a picture of Cindy Oberjosh, so I can go ahead and add Cindy to this. Okay, and then on the back, I can add her image. Let me do this one since they had problems with my image. Okay. All right, so I'm going to preview it, see how it looks, go down to Cindy's thing. Flip it over. So that worked out well. Okay, so that size picture is better than more of an elongated picture. Okay, so I'm going to tell it to insert it again. And now it has the third flip card in it. Okay, so that's how easy it is to go in and add pieces to it, which is wonderful. I wish that some of my like accordions and tabs were using this because it's so much easier to add them in. So I'm going to save that. Okay, and I'm going to show you some of the ones that I did that are a little bit more descriptive and stuff like that. So, all right, so here's one I have the flashcards, the call out, and the accordion on this one. Okay, so this is the call out. So you can see it puts a box around it and it lets you choose a symbol that only has a few symbols. So I think this is one and I can't remember. I think the other one's like a question mark or something like that. So there is limited stuff. So this is what I did on my cards. I showed them what these things look like on the tools, on the menus across the top. And then when they flip it over, there's an explanation about what it is and a little example of what it would look like. So each one of them is done that way. So I just put a little bit more information on them so that the cards looked a little bit more detailed, and a little bit cleaner. Okay, and this here is the accordion, so they can go in and they can expand it. And this gives you an idea of how nice it looks. It just keeps things cleaner when they can expand and collapse things. Okay, so that's the accordions. Let's go to the next one. So this is a timeline that I did. And basically I had to actually fill out the dates. And I went in and took our calendar and I took information off of our calendar to build the timeline. So you can have whatever you want as the topic at top. It doesn't necessarily have to be a date. It can be, you know, something that you want them to look at in some kind of order, and then put a description underneath it. Okay. Now, how that one looks when you're creating it. Okay, again, this is the element itself, and then you have to edit it. And it's the same thing. So this is what's showing up at the above, and then this is what I put inside of it. Okay, so if I go in and I add something to the timeline and say, March 28th, I'm just making it up, through the 30th. And you can set it up as bullets or whatever you want, just to kind of clean it up a little bit. Spring break. And you could put more information, college clothes, whatever you want in here. And again, I can preview it to see how it's going to look. It looks good. Now it's added, and I can insert it. And then save it and close it. Because it's an element, you actually have to kind of save it and close it or insert it to get it on the page and then save the whole page. So you're almost being taken out into a separate area. So you got to remember I accidentally this morning, I was playing around with it and I accidentally hit, oh, close. Well, yeah, I didn't save it and I didn't insert it. So I lost what I was working on. Okay.
Would students want to be printing any of this? Like, is it printable? Or is it just like anything in Brightspace, I guess?
That's a good answer. Let's say download and see what it does. Oh, when is a zip file? Okay,
Hmm. Interesting.
yeah. So
I
let's
was
see.
just curious, and who knows what people want to do? I don't know.
Right, let's see what shows up when they. So it's trying to open it in the browser.
Yeah,
So they could print it from the browser.
okay,
So they could print it.
okay.
I don't know if there was a print option in there. Obviously, I don't have, no, there's no print option there. Okay. All right. So the next one was the one I was working on. So I do have some more. Okay. So this was the page elements and questions. Okay. So this is the one where I did the drop down kind of fill in the blank question on it. So this is what it looks like to students, and I added another question below it. So they can go in and say, oh, I can turn in something in late, and it's my instructor's responsibility when I turn in something late. And they say, no, that's not right. So they can try it again and say, no, I cannot. It's my responsibility. And they can check their answers. Okay. So it's kind of neat because it you know what you hope that they got out of the actual document they're reading. And maybe this will let them know, obviously you didn't read that well enough or absorb it. Maybe you need to go back and read it again. So the same thing up here, if they choose one, it's going to tell them what's wrong. They have to choose all of the above. Okay, but I do want to show you what this one looks like to build it. So let me edit the HTML. And you can actually have as many blank pull downs as you want when you create it. So when I go in to edit it, okay, so this is what the question looks like. Let me zoom in a little bit, maybe to make it a little bit easier for you to see what it looks like. So they give you an example right here of what it should look like when you create your question. And what happens is, depending on how many spots, basically what you have to do is use these square brackets, and you can use any word and then you number them in the order that they're going to be to identify them. So this is where I wanted to have a drop down in the question. And here's my second place where I want a second drop down. That took me a little while to get used to what, how they wanted to lay it out. And then once you put in the question, then you have to do this update blanks. And what it does is it automatically will go in and it will create your blank spots to put in what the correct thing should be. And you'll see it has an option of the correct answer, and then it has incorrect answer. So with this one, it was only two options. They were either correct or not. Okay. And then down here, I had three options for them to choose from. So I had one correct answer, but I had two incorrect answers. And you can see I can add another one if I wanted to. So it's a little bit more complicated, but it's kind of neat that you have that ability to set it as many things as you want to drop down when they hit the arrow to fill in the blank. Okay. The question at the bottom, because I put in two blank spots, whether they would get a score for if they like maybe half a point if they answer one part right and the other part wrong, so you can pick how much they actually see for their points. Come on. And it can actually minus points for if they didn't get it right. Okay, so you can see with the preview here, so if I go back, so this one had two options, this one had three options. Okay. All right, so let's say I add an answer here and say, your mom, and I insert it. Close it, save it and close it. Now when I come to this, it now has the fourth option. Okay, you can see it actually kind of changes the order as to, you know, so that so they're not getting the same thing each time. Okay, so I really like that one. That one's kind of neat. It's a little bit more complicated, but I like being able to give them multiple choices and stuff like that. Okay. Okay, so here's a hotspot. So I uploaded an image, and on the image, I created 3 hotspots. And this was one spot that I could go in and I could change the color of each hotspot so they stood out a little bit more. So when I click on it, it gives them an information off to the right. So it's not really popping up, but it's showing it in the hotspot text on the side there. Okay. And you get to choose where that center of that bullseye is. So you can choose what part of the picture it's referring to. If you had a really detailed picture, it might be a little bit tougher to do. So, you know, something that was really detailed, it might be better to enlarge a section of the picture and focus in on one hot spot on that picture. So it all depends on, you know, how detailed the picture is that you're going to be using. Okay, so you could even, to give you an idea, you could go in and do a map of the college and have hotspots so that when they click on different hotspots, you can say, oh, okay, this is where student success is. This is where the cafeteria is. This is where the bookstore is, that kind of thing. So it could be any picture. It can be anything that you want in there. So I'll show you what that one looks like. Added it. Okay. So at this point, I can just go in and click where I want a hotspot. And then I can come over here and put in the information of what I want it to be. And that added the 4th one. Okay. And I can change the content. I can change, there was a marker. So that's where I could go in and make it a different. Maybe I want to do a heart on that one instead of the other one. This is where I can change that color. Anything I want. So that one is a heart with purple. Okay, so it's just a matter of you just have to insert the image. I don't know what the accessibility is. Oh, okay, so you can do, it's alt text on each one of the hotspots. So you can be a little bit more descriptive on your alt text on them if you wanted to. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and hit save and insert. Oh, I didn't put a name on that one. Needs it. Okay. I save that and I'm going to save it again. So now I can see that heart in there and I just have to click on the heart and it shows the information. Okay. So there, I mean, you can see they're really neat. They're interactive for the students and, you know, it'd be great to be able to have them physically need to do something as they're not just not stagnantly reading a page or something like that. So it's kind of a neat option in there. So let me see. I think that was all that was on that page. Okay. And then the layout was the last one. And these ones were, this one I just did 2 cells and I put text. So this way it would let me basically let you do a column look to the page. But everything's all in, this is all in one cell and this is all in the cell next to it. Okay. So, so those are the different elements as part of Creator Plus. So is there anything that you want me to go back and look at or,
That's really cool.
it is neat. And it's once you learn it, in fact, let me go in and there's actually one of the colleges has a great resource that talks about all these. Let me add that to the chat for you. Okay. So they have videos in here. They talk about each one of the elements and what they do. The one thing that I always thought was interesting is the sequency is more of a matching than it is a sequency. When I was playing around with it today, it basically let me put text on the left and then what the element would be to match it up with on the right. And like I said, it's more of a sequence, it's more of a matching thing as opposed to sequencing. All right, but you can see that there's true, false, sorting, multiple selection, multiple choice, fill in the blank, and then the drop down, fill in the blank. Okay, and then they have examples in here for each one with videos and instructions. So it's a really neat resource to go in and play around with it. Okay, now, can you think of anything that you would use it for?
That's what I'm just trying, that's why I'm just trying to head, my head is like spinning, like what, what could I use to?
I
I
have,
like,
I have
go
a
ahead.
section about like equipment in the kitchen. So I like the flipping idea for like, and then you ask questions later, what is this a picture of? I think it would be great. Yeah. How do I make it
And
work?
and see, that's part of it. It's like you've got to find a need for it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just extra stuff.
Yeah.
So,
Usually by the end of it, I have a lot of PowerPoints, and this would be way more interactive than them just reading another slideshow. Like if I could pivot it to one of these where they're actually clicking and reading, and I think it would
mhm,
be better.
yeah. And this, like a PowerPoint, they're only looking at one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So, and they can flip it over and say, okay, I'm done with it. Let me flip it back over again, just like playing cards kind of
Yeah.
thing. So,
No, there's a lot of cool options.
yeah. And like I said, it makes it so easy to create them and edit them.
Yeah.
And like I said, in the old way, if I wanted an accordion, I used to have to create a template page with accordions on it. And then I had to select how many accordions I wanted, get rid of all the rest of the stuff, or copy the code, put it on another page and paste it in. And you could see I went from one element to the other without having to change pages or anything else. It's just a matter of picking which things I wanted to pull in.
Yeah, because honestly, I haven't done an accordion since way in the beginning because it was too difficult to recreate it. So I just keep carrying it over. So now that it's easier, it will give me no excuse to be able to just do it.
And if you, like I said, if you use this, then you can edit it and add extra ones or take them away, whatever you're
So
doing.
much easier, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to I was playing around with one of the courses that I used a lot of accordions in, but they're the older accordions, and I don't want to have to edit them because all you need to do is grab one thing the wrong way and it just stops working.
Yeah.
So this way is you don't have to worry about codes or anything else. It's just a matter of just picking it and say you want an
Perfect.
accordion or tabs.
Perfect. Well,
I'm
thank
wondering,
you.
like, even for my course schedule, I have it written down by week what we're gonna do. If you have it in that accordion format, maybe it'll look a little less intimidating when I have 4 pages of stuff. They just have to click on that week and say, okay, this is what I have to do.
Now that brings up a good question. Now that you say that, because Kim mentioned something about printing, I want to see how the accordions would show up. So let me go back out.
So would you do accordion rather than the timeline? You're just
Oh, the
saying
timeline.
it would look
Oh,
nice.
the timeline. Yes, the timeline would all be showing anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you do the accordions, then they can expand and collapse things.
Yeah.
It might look neater if there's only, but if they want to look at the whole thing, then yeah.
Right.
I
Yeah,
just
so
wanna
maybe it's
see. I'm gonna keep them. I think I have 2 accordions on this page. Yeah, I do. So I'm gonna expand all these. And then I'm gonna go to the download and see what it does. Because I'm curious. I mean, obviously, if they have flip cards, I don't think it's gonna help them with the download. Is that what it's called? No, that's not it. Where is it?
Oh, is it? Oh,
It's not. Unless it abbreviate it. No, that can't be it.
Oh, because it starts with flip cards where you're,
But I had another one that was just flip cards that we had downloaded. We'll check. Yep, it's abbreviating it. Okay.
yeah, it's just starting with the first words there.
And now it's showing accordion up there. Wow. This is the downloaded zip file. The flip cards still work. It
Oh, wow.
actually downloaded it with the elements in it. The only thing that didn't come over is I had a video in here. I did
Okay,
not bring the video in.
because it's not gonna really print, yeah, okay.
That's interesting. So, I mean, obviously, if I print it, I would have to expand all those accordions
Yeah, I just, I don't know, yeah, yeah.
and then print just through the browser. Okay, well, hey, the best thing to do is check it out and see what it's going to do. Okay, so I'm glad that you're seeing, one, it's not difficult, and
Right.
two, to be able to have all these different elements on the same page is really cool, and to be able to
Yeah.
just start throwing them on there. So,
Awesome.
okay, all right, I'm gonna end now, but if you have any questions, you can reach out. And